had a little revised look at the video that you're going to watch, I'd just like to point out that it's my point of view and it's advice. It's my point of view on things to look out for when you want to change professions. Now, it might not correspond exactly to your problems, but all I can do is give my advice. Alright? Now, photography, you have to realise that once you get into photography, what has been your hobby for 20 years is now a profession. And it's no longer going to be a hobby. You're going to be taking photographs that you might not like. But you will like going to the bank with the cheque. That I promise you. But you've lost a hobby. Now, the strange thing is, after, 45 years in photography, having given it up, I'm now finding it again as a hobby. And I'm not making the money, but I'm enjoying the photography a lot more. So think about it before you make this big step. Now, there's an awful lot of stuff to think about, and we'll go through it point to point, point by point. The first is, are you a good enough photographer? The next thing is, do you have the absolute support of your partner? The other thing is, have you got the money? You're going to need some money, you're going to need equipment, you've got to start in some way. What else is there? I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes. You've got to know about presentation of yourself and of course your work. Now that means sometimes websites, that means sometimes prints, all sorts of presentations, all sorts of flyers, etc. What else is there? Personality. If you don't have that personality that you're going to need to set yourself apart, certainly in the beginning, set yourself apart from all the others trying to get photography work, or photographic work as we used to call it, then you're not going to do it either. So there's a lot to talk about, and I'm sorry if this gets a bit boring as a lesson, but looking at my notes, I think I've covered that first part. Now we'll go through those bits one by one. So let's start with, are you good enough? Well, everyone thinks they're good enough, otherwise you wouldn't be thinking of changing profession. But it's not because your wife or your husband says you're a good photographer. It's not because your children say that you're a good photographer. It's not even that other photographers say you're a good photographer. It's whether the clients think you're a good photographer. Now, don't forget, the most important thing is to give the client what he wants, obviously. But you're only as good as your last picture. Now, before you get work, you're only as good as that first book you're showing the client. After that, you're only as good as the last job. So unless you're ready, really ready to start earning money from photography, while I'm on the point, if you're thinking about this just as a weekend job, forget it. There is no quick way of making good money. All you're doing is devaluing the business totally. So the next thing is finance. Now, that rather depends on what type of work you're going to do. Obviously, people think straight away weddings and portraits. Well, unless you've got somewhere to shoot portraits, it's very difficult making a living just out of going into people's houses and taking pictures. But even so, you still have to be equipment. You have to have the equipment. Can you imagine the embarrassment of having a camera breakdown, or not having the right equipment, or having a flash that doesn't work? That will go round all those people's friends, and you'll never get another job. So you have to have backup equipment. You have to have a selection of lenses. You certainly have to know how to use that equipment. If you're one of these people that just puts it on automatic and hope, forget it. Don't even switch off this video. Please switch it off now. You have to know how to get yourself out of trouble. Because as I said, you're only as good as that last picture, and people talk. So that's portrait photography. You're going to need the lights and the stands and the backgrounds, etc., and somewhere to shoot. Now, whether it be a garage or anything, but don't fall into the trap of trying to open the studio on your first floor in your spare bedroom. It just looks so unprofessional. You have to be professional about these things. That's it, that's portraits, and wedding's over. So, What about commercial photography? Now, a lot of people put portrait and wedding into commercial photography. That to me is a big mistake. You're one or the other. A commercial photographer works for commerce. He goes out and he shoots for factories, for shops, any client that will require a VAT invoice, for example. So, or TVA if you're in France, or whatever, purchase taxes for somewhere in the States. But you're going to have to separate those two in your minds. Nobody should sell themselves as a portrait photographer and a commercial photographer. You can sell yourself maybe in two different directions, totally. Different website, different this, different that, but you have to be a specialist in that direction. So a commercial photographer has got to be equipped with lights, enough to go into a factory, do those super pictures of people welding, all that type of work. Company reports, that's a fantastic business to get into, company reports, that really is, that's good money. There are, of course, many other specialities in photography. Some of you will have totally different ideas of what to do, something I'll never think of. So make sure you're equipped for that type of photography. That brings us to another subject in finance, which is, of course, accountants. Don't make the mistake that most of us have done, me included. You need an accountant from the outset. You have to take his advice. He will tell you about writing off equipment over a certain number of years. He will tell you how to deduct your rent for an office you've got at home. He'll give you lots of little advice, and you must stick to it, really. It's very, very important. Now we come to the support of your partner. Now that is incredibly important. All my 3 wives have been incredibly supportive of me. They have just given me 100%, but that's comparatively easy because I've always been a photographer. They met me when I was a photographer, but they've always been very supportive. None of them have ever suggested I give it up, apart from when I was on travelling an awful lot. It was a question of, well, I wish you would travel less, and maybe, no way. I'm a photographer and I will stay a photographer. Another very important thing is personality. If you don't have that personality, you can be the best photographer in the world, but if you don't have that personality, you will not get work. It's a terrible thing, because I've seen great photographers that just don't get work, and it's because of that. They don't know how to treat clients, they don't know how to take them out to lunch, they don't know when to give them a drink, they don't know, they know very little on treating clients. And that is a big, big problem. So some people might have to go to self-assertion classes. One of the great things, I've done it myself, is to be in a school pantomime. Parents' pantomimes, parents' plays, join the local theatrical society. All this will give you confidence to be able to go up to a client and play the fool. You obviously, if you've seen some of my videos, you know I play a bit of the fool, and that's because I played Dame in 2 pantomimes. It's good fun, and I can look stupid and it doesn't affect me. Now, what about presentation of work? There are several ways of doing it. You can do super prints, and I prefer that. I prefer showing people prints. In this day and age, we've all turned to digital, or numeric. We all have websites. Think about it. Think about your website. Now, I think you should only have a website for reference. Give the address to people to come on and see your work. You might be selling prints through your website, that's fair enough as well. Never believe, don't fall into the trap of believing that people are going onto the internet, they're looking for a photographer in Norwich, and they're going to come up with you. Forget it. A website you shouldn't be spending a lot of money on a website unless you're willing to take 5 years for it to get onto a decent search level. So don't spend a lot of money on a website, it's a total waste of money. A lot of people do it, oh, I've got a website, it cost me £4,000, and they just sit back and wait for the work. Forget it, that's not going to happen. I see an awful lot of photographers, because I read a lot nowadays on the web, I see an awful lot of photographers saying, I got a mail from a client I sent him back a quote and he sent me a mail back saying I was too expensive. There is an enormous mistake there. When you get an email from a client, you get off your bum and you go and see that client, because you can walk out with the order in your hand by talking. And that's what I mean, that's where you need the personality. But just sending an email back, no, you're not taking the work seriously. You have to go in and talk about the job. Give him some ideas how it should be shot. Convince him that you're the person to shoot it. All right, now that's basic business. Now here's another one you might not have thought about. When I was talking about, are you a good enough photographer? There's also the possibility, are you too good a photographer? Now what do I mean by that? Well, it's very simple. I knew a photographer once who was fantastic. He really was. He knocked me a long way. He was much better than me. A great photographer. He had a master's degree from Rochester University in photography. He was a Belgian, so he was doing that in a language that wasn't his own. He had every qualification. In fact, he took 5 years out of his professional career to study photography. And when he came back, he couldn't get any work, and he couldn't get any work because, for the one reason, he started to refuse to do what the client wants. He knew better. No, it had to be like this, it has to be like that, you've got it wrong, it shouldn't be shot like that, it shouldn't. And the poor guy went bankrupt. And he went bankrupt because he was overqualified. It just went to his head. He thought he just knew better than everybody. The client knows what they want, believe me. Now the sun's doing all strange things with reflections in glasses, etc., because it's all changed since I started. Now, I'm going to leave it for now at that. If there's anything you want more, don't hesitate to send me a message of some sort, and I'll try and go further into a particular subject. Okay? Cheers.